Welcome to the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. This is the place where we help mission-driven messengers just like you learn how to build and monetize your personal brand. My name is Rory Vaden, and I'm the co-founder of Brand Builders Group, a Hall of Fame speaker, and New York Times bestselling author. And this show is to help experts learn how to become more wealthy and well-known. I know you're going to love it. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. Well, I can't wait to let you hear and listen in on this conversation with my good buddy, Graham Cochrane. So Graham is a BBG client, and he represents, in my eyes, much of why we started the company, to find good people with real expertise who are helping people and care about making a difference in the world, using their skills and talents to make the world a better place. He is a mission-driven messenger who has real expertise and a really impressive track record. So Graham is a seven-figure entrepreneur. He has a podcast that reaches over 80,000 people every month. So he's in the top 0.5% of all podcasters. He has over 700,000 YouTube subscribers, which is super impressive. I'm super jealous of that. And he does all of it in minimal number of hours per week. He's been a TED speaker. He's a keynote speaker. I know he's speaking at some of my friends' events, and I'm starting to see him more and more. We're also in a Christian entrepreneurs mastermind together. His wife and AJ are in an actual mastermind together. And so just an amazing guy. And he's got a new book coming out called Rebel: Find Yourself by Not Following the Crowd. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and how to just make money doing what you do and getting paid for what you know, which was kind of like more of his first book. So Graham, welcome to the show, man. Good to have you.
Dude, pumped to have the conversation, man. It's been fun to see our worlds collide over the last 12 months a little bit more. I love what you guys are doing at Brand Builders. It is literally the best. Like, literally, if you're not in Brand Builders, you need to join, because it's the best program for getting your message out there holistically and building a business around it. It's so well done, bro.
Man, thank you for that. I mean, that's a powerful testimonial, and to get it from someone like you who's already, doing a great job of it before we found you. I love that. And I love your heart for what you're doing. Everyone listening already knows I'm a hardcore Bible thumping Jesus freak, and AJ is. You are, and your wife is, and we got a chance to meet your family and that whole thing. But talk to me about Rebel, the title Rebel, and specifically the subtitle to me really spoke to me when I saw it. It said, Find yourself by not following the crowd. So why is not following the crowd important? I feel like we live in a world where people are constantly following the crowd and like looking at what other people are doing. And I feel like your book is like a very distinctively, diametrically kind of opposed message to that. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are ultimately looking for fulfillment. If you're a personal brand or business owner, you want to be fulfilled in your business, and I have some thoughts on what leads to fulfillment. But typically, what we do is we almost abdicate the path to fulfillment by just looking at what everyone else is doing and saying, "Well, he looks happy, she looks happy. That's how she's running her business. That's how he's showing up online. That's how they're raising their kids. That's how they're thinking about handling their money." And so we just sort of copy what we see because it's easier. There's already a flow. There's already like a current of culture, of conformity moving in a direction. So the easiest path is the path of just doing what everyone else is doing. And the problem is that you'll never find fulfillment by following the crowd, because it's going to pull you further away from the way you were designed. So we believe in a great designer. And you know this is true intuitively, because you know what it feels like to feel out of alignment. And then when you're like in the zone or in your sweet spot, and it's a lot easier to live in alignment. And I just think we're afraid to figure out, what does alignment mean for us? Like, how are we designed? The late Dan Miller, who was like, I had him on my podcast, and he endorsed my first book, and had brief interactions with him before we lost him. But the two questions he always says that you need to answer are, who am I and why am I here? And I agree with him on that we don't know who we are. But if we did the small but important work of finding out more about the way God designed us, the way we're wired, man, we'd flourish in business. We'd flourish in parenting and marriage. We'd flourish in our relationships with money and people and spirituality. So to me, this book is a book about alignment and identity. But once you figure that out, man, you're going to be more successful. You're going to be more satisfied. You're going to be of more service to other people. And I think those are three things everybody wants.
So yeah, and I think you use that word abdicate, which I really love because I think that it's like this energy of almost like a default mode, and I do think people basically like live their life in that way of like I'm just sort of default. And I think probably, at least the way I view it, is few people wake up and go, yeah, I want to do what everyone else does and I'm just going to follow the crowd. But it seems more of like they struggle to figure out, how do I know who am I? How do I know
Yeah.
why I am here? How do I find that? So what insights do you have there if someone's like, well, I just don't really feel like I'm that clear on that? What are the steps that they can take to sort of like get clear on some of those things?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of ways to do this. The way I teach in the book, it is an acronym. Rebels is an acronym. It's a 5-part framework, and the R, the beginning of it, it starts with resolving to dream again. So the R stands for resolve. To resolve to dream again. My theory, my premise is that joy and dreaming and desires that I think are put there by God are the starting point to figuring out who you are. The
Mm,
point of thinking about dreaming, the point of thinking about what fires you up, what you would love to, in Tim Ferriss's language, dream of doing, being, or having. Like he says, like, if you're the smartest person in the world and it was impossible to fail, what would you dream of doing, being, or having? That type of questioning is a starting point for figuring out your identity, not the end, but the starting point. Because my theory is that dreams are clues as to the way God designed us. We might have collective dreams that are similar for all people, but I think there's a lot of uniqueness to the things you want to do, want to have, the person you want to be, that are a clue to, maybe I should pull on that thread a little bit more. But the problem is like, as adults, I think that's just beat out of us. Like as a kid, this was so natural. Like we grew up dreaming, we knew what we wanted as kids, and then either culture at large, culture like in your home or whatever, told you this is the way, sort of Mandalorian, Star Wars, like this is the way, you have to follow it. Um, and very few people dream anymore when they grow up, and so they no longer know who they are. They've lost sort of themselves, and they've conformed. And I really think there's a difference between the path of conformity and then the beginning of getting off of that path is dreaming again. And it's really hard to do because we feel like dreaming is pointless, it's childish, it's, my dream didn't work out for me very well, I got burned by dreaming, there's disappointment there. So it's a very tender place. But that's my theory. You start with dreaming again. 30,000-foot view might seem impossible. I don't know what I'm going to do with this dream, but it starts to tell you a little bit about the way you're wired.
yeah, that's good, brother. And I mean, just as you were talking, I was, sort of processing what you were saying, and it dawns on me that like, God puts a dream in your heart. If you look at the inverse of that, the devil, if the devil stops you from dreaming, then the devil stops you from doing, right? Like if you never allow yourself to have the dream, then the likelihood of that thing ever coming true, it basically becomes non-existent. And so the devil doesn't even have to stop you from doing. If he can just stop you from dreaming, then it's like a seed that never gets watered, it never gets birthed. And so then it's like the devil wins by default, in terms of a spiritual battle, and just thinking about like a spiritual enemy of, and I think of that, that's what the scripture says, that the devil is a liar. I mean, that's he's a liar. He comes to kill and steal and destroy. And you go, if he plants a lie, like if God plants a dream, you should go do this, and then the devil shows up and just plants a lie on top of it, you could never do this, then like you lose. So it's like, which voice are you going to listen to?
Oh, that's so good. And there's different lies. It's either, for some people, he knows like, if we're going to talk spiritually, the devil knows what's effective for each of us. So it might be, you'll never be able to do this. The other lie could be, if this won't work out, and you will be incredibly disappointed. And there could be a huge fear of disappointment, especially if you had a dream that did die in the past. Something we talked about a year ago. I was doing a session with you. We talked about this identity crisis intersection, about like, and I wrote about this in the book, about when you have a dream. We all have had a dream. It could be a financial dream or a career ambition or a relationship dream, like I want to get married, I want to have kids. And then what happens when that dream dies? Well, we're at this identity crisis intersection because our dreams are not compartmentalized. They're part of our identity is attached to our dreams. That's why they hurt so much when we lose them. And that's why they
Totally.
feel so good when we gain them. And so part of you dies with that dream. And so what most people do is they say, forget this. I'm going to choose the path at this intersection. There's two choices. I'm going to choose the conformity path, put my head back down, be like everybody else, and say, man, dreaming's for other people. That didn't work out for me. There's no way I'm going to do the opposite, which is the other choice, which is to dream again. Maybe the divorce happened. You could choose to pursue another relationship and dream again, but most people are like, I don't want to be hurt again. I don't want to be disappointed again. It's a tender spot. So we gave dreaming a shot once or twice, and then that was it. And I think I was just talking about this with Chris Cook on the Win Today podcast of like the people that seem younger as they get older and seem more full of joy in life are the people that continually let themselves dream again, dream new dreams. Maybe that dream didn't work out, but what's a different version of that dream I could dream? My first dream was to be a rock star, like literally try to get a record deal. That fell through. I had to make some tough choices. But in a roundabout way, God put new versions of that dream in my heart where now I'm in front of tens of thousands, if not millions of people regularly performing, sharing, creating, doing creative work. I just didn't want to sit at a cubicle all day. And God gave me another way to do that. It was through YouTube, which didn't exist when I was in college. It was through podcasting, it was through books, it was through all this stuff. And so I never could have even imagined. But I think, yeah, there's that lie of you'll be disappointed if the dream doesn't work out. It's impossible. Dreaming is selfish, depending on your origin story. Your parents might have said, we don't get to do what we want. We do what's responsible. We do what the family's business is. You're going to go to college. You're going to do this. So a lot of times dreaming feels selfish. So everyone's story is going to be a little different, but this is why I start with dreaming, because it's like so useful if you let yourself do it, but so many people have mental blocks around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And I think w- as I think of like the most successful people I know, they're not the people who had a dream and then the dream came true. They're the people who had a dream, it didn't quite come true. They had a new dream, that didn't quite come true. They chased a new dream, that didn't quite come true. And it's like it's kind of this course correction of like they're chasing dreams that never come true, and then yet they keep chasing them. And then you look back one day and you go, I'm freaking living the dream. And it's a dream that I never even had. I had different dreams that were, things that I wanted. And in the moment, you go, why isn't God giving me my dream? Like, why isn't God having this come true? But then you do that, and it's just like a giant, Plinko board or a maze or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day you look back and you go, oh my gosh, God had such a better dream for me. But it was like he was using these dreams to lead me down the path. So I love that. It's like dreaming. To me, the power of dreaming is not even that it has to come true. The power
Correct.
of a dream is that it moves you to action.
Yes. Right. Because to do anything great, let's talk about personal brands. Like to build a personal brand takes risk. Like anyone who thinks you can build a business without risk is not in the right mind. It takes risk. And so some people get scared away. But I think, and that was me when I thought about entrepreneurship. I never wanted to start a business because it seemed risky. What
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize is I didn't have a big enough desire for the outcome on the other side of the risk to take the risk. Once I had a dream or a vision of like, man, I could help. So for me, my business started out in the music space, teaching musicians how to record music and set up a home recording studio. That's
Mm.
how I started my first YouTube channel. That was the skill I had. And so once I saw a vision of like, well, it'd be so fun to help musicians, it'd be so fun to be able to talk about music. And I was a freelancer at the time and do a little bit of everything. That was a big enough desire that made me want to take the risk because I had no idea what the business model was. I didn't know who Amy Porterfield was. I didn't know what a course was. This is 2009. I'm like starting out in the dark ages and like trying to figure this out. But I think desire gets you past the risk. So if you're going to build a personal brand, don't build the brand that you think you should build or someone else is building, or build the business model the way you think you got to really be excited about the thing you're building to get you to take the risks necessary. And like you said, like course correct along the way to get anywhere meaningful. And without that, I just don't think we're going to take the risk.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Okay, so Rebel is the acronym. So that's the first one. What's the E?
The E is to establish the outcomes you want in life. So if we're resolving to dream again at the beginning, big picture dreams, I walk people through a 50 dreams exercise in the book. The E is to establish the outcome. So now we get clear on vision, right? And this is more of, okay, what do I specifically want my life to look like? And I kind of stole this question from Rich Litvin, which is this just a simple scenario of, imagine it's 3 years from today, and I bump into you, Rory, and I'm like, Rory, I haven't seen you in 3 years. How the heck are you, buddy? And you're like, Graham, it has been the best 3 years of my life. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Let's grab a coffee, sit down, tell me about that. What would you be telling me about? What would have to be true for you to say to me, it's been the best 3 years of my life? And what I like about this journal prompt or thought exercise is two things. One, it's open ended because it's not business related. It could be your family, it could be your finances, it could be whatever. But also it's the time frame of 3 years. Like I'm a big planner on the strength finders. I'm high on futuristic. I live in the future to my detriment a lot of times at the expense of the present. But 10 years, like people having a 10-year plan, it's really, really hard because 10 years is so far down the road. I'm either going to be highly unmotivated to take action today because it's a
Totally.
decade away, or I don't know who I'm going to be in 10 years. 10 years ago, I was a totally different person. And so it's just a tough thing to project. 1 year, like I kind of like New Year's resolutions because they give you a lot of urgency to like, let's freaking go. And I like the boost of adrenaline, but then it's hard to change your life in a year. And so you get discouraged and you give up. 3 years, you're close enough to who you kind of can project who you're going to be and what season of life you're going to be in. You can look at your kids, you can look at your life and go, I can kind of see in 3 years where I might be. So it's reasonable to assume some things. And yet, I think you and I both know that we can do a lot of damage in 36 months. Like we could change our body in 36 months. I could change my marriage in 36 months. I could transform my business in 36 months. And so that 3 year question allows people to go from dreaming big picture to, man, what do I really care about that I would say it's been the best 3 years of my life? What would have to be true? And now I have some specific outcomes I want to move towards.
Yeah, I agree with that. I love that, the 3 year window. I think there's also something powerful about, yeah, 10 years feels far. 1 year, it's like you tend to overestimate what you can do in a year. But like by the time you're an adult, you can look back at your own life and go, well, 3 years, like that was basically high school. Think of how much I changed when I was in high school, or that was middle school. Think about, I went into middle school basically as a kid and then come out as like a teenager, right? So there's like, you can look back in your life, or college, right? It's like 4 years, so 3 to 4 years. You can look back in your own life and go, I see evidence of how radical a life can change in that window of time, physically,
Yeah.
mentally, spiritually. So it's long enough that you can do real change, but it's short enough people can still get their mind around it, and they've kind of had those like little seasons, those little windows of time. And so I love that. So in that, you're basically just answering that question: what would need to happen in the next 3 years for you to be able to say you'd have your best life ever? And you're just like writing that out, the answer to that question.
Yeah. You start to journal it out. There's some sub questions you can ask yourself, like, once you see that vision, like what are the opportunities in front of me right now that could get me to that vision that are just low hanging fruit? And then the opposite, what are the obstacles that I could foresee? External obstacles, internal obstacles that would prohibit me from making that vision come a reality. But the reason we do all this stuff, right, is like, and I have this with clients who will come to me and say, Graham, I want to make $100,000 a year in my business. And I'm like, hey, go do this exercise. Go do the 3 year vision. They come back, and what it does is it exposes what they uniquely want. And I had a client who wanted $100,000 a year in his business. He wanted me to help him scale up. But when he came back from this exercise, what he discovered was, actually what I want is to move to Florida and live closer to the beach so I can ride my bike or walk on the beach every day with my wife. I
Mm.
want to be able to have my wife stay home with our kids and work with me in the business. So my 4 kids, me and my wife, are all at home together. We have more time together, and we're getting to work on something together. I want to be able to travel a little bit more, and I want to be able to replace my car. Like, he had very specific things, and he was like, I want to be working out every day. Like, he'd mapped all this out, and he realized I don't need $100,000 a month in my business to create that vision, because the money is where, as I coach business owners a lot, that's where their minds go, is a dollar amount. But I'm like, the money is just a vehicle. You really have a business to create the life you want and serve your life, not have your life serve your business. So like, what kind of life do you want? And that's going to be different for Rory and me and my clients. Like, you've got to get clear on what you uniquely want. And the reason why, as a business owner, if your personal brand is that, well, then now you've got a much clearer vision to give yourself permission to not do what she's doing, what he's doing, what the trends say to do, if it's not in alignment with your vision. So if your vision is to work less than 20 hours a week in your business, you probably shouldn't be taking on a model of business that requires you to pump out content all day, every day, and you're a slave to the business because you're now sacrificing your vision for making money. What if it got you to be curious about, is there another way to make money, but have my vision of working less than 20 hours a week, if that was part of your vision? So that's where it starts to get more personalized to you. So you know how to design your life and not just float. Because in personal branding, everyone's going to copy everyone. Like, you've got some of the biggest clients in the world, and everyone sees them, the Ed Miletts and the Amy's and all these people, and be like, oh, I should just do what they're doing. But maybe that's not best for you and your personal brand or your
Mhm.
season of life or your unique challenges or your special needs child or your whatever. You got to really get clear on what you want to do and make your business fit that. That's part of my heartbeat when it comes to business owners specifically.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was thinking about that because our youngest just turned 5, and it's been such a wild ride, and it's been the most beautiful thing, but also very difficult. I mean, like the last 7 years of my life have been extraordinarily difficult. Growing up for most of my young years without a dad, not knowing what it means to be a dad, not knowing how this looks, and had no expectation whatsoever. I'd never been around young kids, and it was like it was hard. And I was part of it was celebrating me as like, man, I feel like we're finally turning a corner of like the kids having some autonomy and me being able to just like sleep through the night. I mean, it's just literally like I basically went 7 years without sleeping through the night. I mean, like is hard. And I was thinking about that to myself, and I was going, you know, people don't give themselves enough grace for the season they're in, right? It's like you're looking at someone online who's blowing up, and it's like, if you got newborn kids, like you're living in a completely different universe. Like you're not even in the same game, the same league, certainly not the same field. Like you're in a completely different universe. And just having that, both the dreams for your own life, but also the grace of failure of like, if it's not happening so fast, it's like, dude, there's the, and having kids, not having kids, it's like it's two different universe. I mean, happening on this planet, like they're completely different,
Yeah.
and each one has different things that come along with that. And so I love that. So the acronym, y'all, REBEL. If you want to know the rest of the acronym, you need to go get the book. Okay, so the book is called Rebel. By the time you're hearing this, the book is out or really close to being out. So you can go get Graham's book. Um, I have one more thing I want to ask you about before I let you go, Graham. But before I do that, where should people go if they want to like get the book, learn about you, stay in touch, etc.?
Yeah, therebelbook.com will get you directly to the book. And if it's before it comes out, there's some pre-order bonuses there. Um, but grahamcochrane.com, the Graham Cochrane Show, or on Instagram, the only place I hang out online is at the Graham Cochrane.
Cool. Cool, brother. So, the last thing I just wanted to hear your thoughts on a little bit is how you build a business not working 100 hours a week. I know this is something that you have made a focus in your life. I know that this is something that you have done. I know this is something that you have coached and advised people on. I would love to just hear a few of your tips or pointers around that, and going like, I think a lot of people do think, I mean, entrepreneurship is hard. I mean, let's be real. It's like, I think there's a lot of truth sometimes to that whole like, you quit a job working 40 hours a week for someone so you can go work 80 hours a week for yourself. And a lot of times that is pretty, and then my experience has been that is often true, especially like the first couple of years. But like, you also have the freedom to design a business differently. So how do we design a business that works that way? The other thing I will say about you is I love meeting your family, and I really learn a lot, and like all I need to know about a person by meeting their family, just to go like, is this someone who's just trading what's happening at home for something else, which is not necessarily good, bad, right, or wrong. It's not. It's just, but I'm always very curious, especially of like people's kids and things like that. And yours are so wonderful, and your wife is so wonderful. So it's powerful to me to go, all right, here's someone who's doing this, and while they're able to have this like really wonderful, beautiful family. So talk to us about that a little bit.
Oh, thank you so much, man. And likewise, your family is a treat to meet them and see them. And AJ is such a classy person, and Shay's really loved getting to know her. And I think they're trying to stick together in their little small group inside this mastermind. But looking forward to doing more life with you guys, man. I think we want the same things, right? Which is you really care about your family, and you care about your faith, and you care about other people, and probably your community, and those are all things that are a time commitment. And so from day one, when I started my business, I was on food stamps. I was newly married, new baby, planning a church. I was like a volunteer worship leader. Like I was like, I know God's telling me to start a business, but there's no way it can be 100-hour a week business. It just can't, because I am volunteering 20 hours a week at this startup church. I'm trying to become a dad for the first time. I'm still only a couple years into marriage, so I had parameters from day one that had to fit in. And so that was my set of circumstances, which I'm really grateful for, because it taught me to understand something that's just so simple, but it takes effort on the front end to do, which most business owners don't do, which is really do the hard work of an 80/20 analysis on your business. Like, I think people hustle because they're lazy. I think hustle is just a form of laziness in disguise, because people haven't done the hard work of sitting down and slowing down and saying, what of the tasks I'm doing in my day, week, month, what of the offers I have, what of the lead gen strategies I have really are the 20% of the things I'm doing that are generating 80% of the results I need. And that changes from season to season in business. And I'm constantly putting everything under the gun, so to speak, of prove to me that this task is worth it. Prove to me that that offer is worth it. And I'm willing to let things go, or I'm willing to not have the most perfect system, as long as it gets me most of the results so I can do it in a minimal amount of time. And I became like a weirdo, bro. Every year I was like, I made it a game every January. How can I work fewer hours in my business this next year while increasing my income this year, and just see what's possible? And I haven't always done it perfectly. And economies change, things change. I've started a second business. That's what I'm doing now. Now I'm writing and speaking, and things are changing again. But that's always a mantra I have, is I have to prove to myself that this task is worth it. I just think most business owners are doing a lot of activity, and most of it isn't moving the needle forward. It feels important. It might even look important, but I'm willing to not look as important. I'm willing to not look as active on social media or other places, to have more of my time back and have the income and lifestyle I want. So it's just a decision to analyze things and put it under the gun.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. I love that question. How can I work fewer hours this year while still growing the business? That's AJ and I put constraints and parameters around our stuff. Like, we've always said like Brand Builders Group cannot be more than 50 employees, because then you get into all these other like, it just becomes more complicated. There's all these HR policies and like
Yep.
all these other things that come into play. And it's like, so what's the most impact we can create with 50 employees? And it's like, you have to go, what's the impact per employee? What's the revenue per employee? And it's been really fun to do that. We also, we worked 100-hour work weeks in the first business. In Brand Builders, we said, we'll work from 9 to 5. And outside of that, it's up to God. And so it's like, how can I build a business? And this is the constraint. And in AJ's case, there's 2 days a week, and she's been trimming back more and more ever since we started to have more time with the kids. So I think it's good to give yourself those types of parameters, those types of boundaries, those types of challenge questions to go, how can I do this? Because if you ask the question how, your brain will figure out the answer. It'll start to cut what's irrelevant. But if you don't ask that, it'll just fill the space with whatever shows up. So I really love that, Graham. I'm so excited about you and the book and just the future. I just, again, we're so proud of the people we get to work with as clients and just be a part of their journey, and proud to hold people up and say, like, look at, like, these are the people who we get a chance to work with. A lot of what I think we do that's really brilliant at Brand Builders Group is we pick people who are going to be successful with or without us, and then we work with them right before they blow up. And so that is, part of my prayer for you too, brother. And I think that's happening like more and more. So thanks for your time here. Thanks for who you are. Thanks for what you're putting out there in the world. Keep helping, keep serving, brother, and we wish you all the best.
Thanks, bro. The feeling is 100% mutual.